Usain Bolt, Bill Gates, and Stephen Hawking. What do they all have in common? They are all the best at what they do. Usain Bolt is the fastest, Bill Gates is the richest, and Stephen Hawking is the smartest. These are all superlative adjectives. We use these when we want to describe the people or the thing which is the most extreme or the best. Knowing how to form a full sentence with the correct form of a superlative adjective can be a little bit difficult, however. Stay tuned as I make superlative adjectives easy. Hi everyone, how are you? I'm Edward from English Made Easy, and I have to ask you to stop watching this video now. If you haven't seen my video on comparative adjectives, I strongly recommend you go watch that first. I'm going to assume that you have a complete understanding of comparative adjectives when dealing with the superlative adjectives from today's lesson. You can check out that video by following the link above or checking out the description below. Now that you hopefully have a good understanding of comparative adjectives, superlative adjectives should be much easier. If you remember, comparative adjectives are used to compare two things. Superlative adjectives, on the other hand, are used to identify which one thing in a group is the most. For example, out of these four animals, which one is the biggest? Hopefully, you know that the rhinoceros is the biggest of this group. How about if I change the question and said, which is the biggest animal in the world? That would no longer be the rhinoceros, but it would be the blue whale, which is actually the biggest animal in history. Now that we understand when we use superlative adjectives, let's find out how to use them. The good news is that superlative adjectives use the same grouping for their rules as comparative adjectives do. So we have the group of one-syllable adjectives like big, tall, fat, rich, small. Adjectives with two syllables ending with the letter Y, like healthy, scary, silly, or ugly. And adjectives with two or more syllables, such as difficult, incredible, or beautiful. If you've watched the video from comparative adjectives, you'll recognize this page. I have transformed the adjectives I used to describe the kitten and the crocodile into comparative adjectives to compare them. I said that the kitten is cuter than the crocodile, but the crocodile is scarier than the kitten. Let's add a third animal into the mix. How about an elephant? Now we need to change the adjectives to their superlative form. Big changes to bigger, then the superlative form, biggest. Cute changes to cuter, then cutest. The rule for superlative adjectives when dealing with adjectives with only one syllable, therefore, is to add est to the end. How about fluffy and scary? Fluffy becomes fluffier, then fluffiest. Scary becomes scarier, then scariest. The rule for two-syllable adjectives ending with a Y is to cut the Y and add iest. Finally, let's figure out how to change adjectives with more than two syllables into their superlative form. Much like with comparative adjectives, we don't modify the ending of the adjective. Instead, we add something before it. In this case, we add most. So, adorable becomes more adorable, and finally, most adorable. Aggressive changes to more aggressive, and in its superlative form, most aggressive. The third and final rule of superlative adjectives is to add most before the adjective if it has two or more syllables. Now that you know how to modify the adjectives, we need to be able to build a sentence using correct grammar. If there's only one subject, we just use the verb to be. For example, the kitten is cute. If there are two subjects and we want to compare them, then we have to use the verb to be with a comparative adjective and then than. For example, the kitten is more adorable than the crocodile. Now that we have a whole group, we have to choose which one animal is the best representative for the adjective. If we want to use a superlative adjective, we use the structure subject, plus verb to be plus the plus superlative adjective. For example, the kitten is the cutest. The kitten is the subject. We use is for the verb to be, followed by the, and then the superlative form of cute, which is cutest. Much like comparative adjectives, there are a few different parts to remember, but once you get some practice in, it'll be much easier for you to remember each element. Let's complete the sentences using the other adjectives. The elephant is the biggest. The kitten is the fluffiest. The crocodile is the scariest. The kitten is the most adorable. The crocodile is the most aggressive. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned we use superlative adjectives when talking about groups of things. We can add the group at the end of the sentence to clarify to the listener what we're talking about. For example, the blue whale is the biggest animal in the world. Usain Bolt is the fastest man in history. Bill Gates is the richest man ever. Tokyo is the largest city in Japan. I'd like you to practice now. I'm going to give you 4 subjects, and I'd like you to be creative and write a sentence using a superlative adjective to compare these 4. The 4 subjects will be Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, and Iron Man. Post your final sentence in the comments below and let others read and see what you've come up with. Thanks for watching this lesson of English Made Easy. If you feel like this video helped you, please give it a like, share it with your friends, or even consider subscribing to see more of our videos. If you have a question that you want answered, please post it in the comments section below. Or if you'd like to join our community, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or even support us on Patreon. You can find the links to all of these below. Thanks for watching and keep learning.